Alright, welcome to another video. In this video, we're talking about how the market moves on a downtrend and a sideways trend. Now, what is a downtrend? A downtrend is a series of lower highs and lower lows, signaling that supply is exceeding demand and prices are falling. So, graphical representation of this would be on the chart. So, example, we're talking about a downtrend now. A downtrend will look a bit more in the reverse of an uptrend. Uptrend, we already established the fact that we create, market move in structural movement of impulsive and correctional move, and then creating higher highs and higher lows. This is basically an uptrend. So the reverse would now be the case for a downtrend. A downtrend is structural move of impulsive and correctional moves, creating what lower high and lower lows. In this case, we have in this point our first high, and then we have our first low. Now, this low had a correctional move that created another high that is what lower than this high. So this will be called a lower high. So it's as simple and basic as that. And then let's just keep going. A lower high created a low that is what lower than the previous low. So that level will be called a lower low. By the way, LL stands for lower low, LH stands for lower high. Then we have the next high created, which is also lower than the previous high, creating what a lower high. So we just do that basically, and that's the basic and simplest form of a downtrend. So in this case, this is a lower low, and then this will be called what lower high. This is the scenario for a downtrend. Now, how do we imply that to the chart? And relatively, we are going to look at sideways movement. So this is a trend. Look at this carefully. We have a high giving our first impulsive move, then a correctional move, then an impulsive, correctional, impulsive, correctional, impulsive, correctional, and then we'll add a last leg here. Now, if you take this out, you will see that it's basically the same exact thing. No difference. Same exact thing. Just the market creating a series of lower lows, lower highs and lower lows, right? So this would be what our first high, followed by a low, then a lower high, and then like that until you have a stop or a reversal, and then we start creating what higher highs and higher lows, which is the uptrend. But the next version would now be called, the next type of price movement would be sideways or ranging movement. This is when the market is not creating any form of higher highs and higher lows. So this is an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows, right? But for the case of downtrend, this is a downtrend, lower highs and lower lows. But we're talking about market just moving but not creating any form of higher highs and higher lows, which would be called a range. So we're hitting a level, which will also bring us to the next topic that we're talking about, which is support and resistance. So but this is a market that's just moving sideways. It's not creating any form of higher highs and higher lows. This will generally be called what? A ranging market. Let's look for an example in the chart, and then we can move to the next topic. So obviously this is not a perfect example, but you can see how we've been having market being basically stagnant in one level for a long time, not moving until we had this break, and then we started creating the patterns. But this area will be called an area of no movement or reversals, or mitigation or accumulation, or basically a range movement. Let's look at one more example. Like in this case, you can see how we've had what market moving in a sideways movement, right? So this will be called a sideways movement, or what? A ranging market. So this is very simple. Now this brings us to the next topic. The next topic will be called support and resistance. Now, because I don't want this video to be long, I would love us to have another video, but I think I can just chip it in and just be really quick about it. Let me remove everything. Now, what's the concept of support and resistance? Support and resistance states that For every ceiling there's a floor. What that means is that if one jumps up, the force of gravity will force you to come down, or your ceiling would force you to come down. And when you reach the ground, you don't completely sink into the floor and just keep going down. The floor supports your weight and holds you, on a stable ground. So that way, you have a level of resistance and a level of support. This is the simplest, relatively way of explaining support and resistance. Now, I have a note here that explains what support and resistance is, and then I'm just going to read it to you. Then we'll move on from there. So support and resistance levels are key concepts in technical analysis. Support is a price level at which an asset tends to stop falling due to increased buying interest. Resistance is the price level at which uh, an asset tends to stop rising due to increase in selling interest. Let's go back to the chart. So obviously the market moves, you know, it can move up. I'm having a trend, and then immediately we start to have a downtrend, and then we come back to that same level and just start to continue a downtrend. So anytime we see price reacting off of certain areas, like for example, an area like this where we've seen the market had one, two, three, four rejections from, and every time it hits that area, it rejects to the downside. That area will be a key level and will be called an area of resistance. As simple as that. That area will be called the area of resistance. So opposite is the case where we have areas or key areas in the price where the market have constant rejection from, that same area, and you can always expect that the market, every time the market comes to that area, you have a strong reaction from there. Like in this case, this will be an area where we have the market reacting 1, 2, 3, 4 times from. So this will be 4 reaction, and that would serve as a key level, and that would also be called what? An area of support. So basically, support is a key level in price that allows for price movement to go higher, while resistance is a key level in price that allows the market to go lower. That's basically the concept of support and resistance. So we're going to look at one example from the chart, and then you can see for yourself. So for example, we have this area, a very strong area. Notice how the market hits it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a 6 touch. This would be a very good area of what? Support, because it's supporting price. Every time price comes to that level, we reject to the upside. So this would be a very good area of support. And another area of resistance would be something like this, where we've had multiple touches, where the market comes, the first touch rejects, second touch rejects, third touch rejects, and then the last touch also rejects. So this area will be called a very heavy area of what? Support. So support and resistance is a key concept in the market that you want to use in analyzing your market and understanding where key levels would be, and where you can also expect resistance or market rejection. Look at this, how this market has rejected from this level multiple times. This is another touch here, one more touch here, another touch here, and it's just rejecting that area multiple times. So this area is a key level of support, while this area is a key level of, oh my god, I just realized I've been saying support. This is supposed to be resistance. This is supposed to be resistance. Resistance takes price down. So this is resistance, this is support, and then basically the idea is that resistance takes the market down and support takes the market up. And I can't wait to see you in the next video.